I've created something which I don't think I've shared publicly, but I've run inside first.
Here we are, breaking the news.
Let's call it the Venture Arrogance Score. All right, so you take a fund, say that fund is a $7 billion fund. You need two numbers to understand any fund's business model. First is how large is the fund? 7 billion. The next is what percent of a company do you think they'll own on exit? And so, like, are they going to own 30% like they did 20 years ago, or are they going to own 8% or 10%? And like today, it's trending to 10%. Like, you know, Wiz, an amazing exit, right? Sequoia owned 10%. Index owned a little more. So, like, and I would argue that, like, when you look at prices and the competitive nature, 10% is like a safe assumption, but you could plug in, you know, you could do the math yourself. So if you have a $7 billion fund and you're going to own 10% of the companies that you're in on average, you just figure out, okay, for each turn of the fund, that's $70 billion, right? Like the founders need to create $70 billion worth of value in your basket for your 10% to be worth $7 billion. So if you want to, now, if you're still aspiring for a 4x gross, 3x net, which is sort of what like the venture long-term aspirational goal was, you're now saying, okay, so for each turn of the fund, that's 70 billion. So call that $280 billion.
Right.
And here's where the arrogance scale comes in, because say you raise that fund every 3 years, you know, that's roughly $90 billion a year of exit value that you hope to extract out of the market.
And how much is exiting total?
Well, like the last decade was the best decade ever.
Yeah.
$1.9 trillion total of US venture. And that includes pharma and everything, like semiconductors. So let's just include it all. So that's an average of $180 billion a year. It's a median of about 100. So if you sit down and
But
say—
the outliers matter, so we'll take the average. So it's like you need to catch half.
You need to catch half. By the way, to my knowledge, there hasn't been a venture fund that has ever repeatedly caught over 10%.
Yep.
So you're saying that you and your fund in this hyper-competitive environment with 10,000 funds and 20,000 plus check writers, you are going to capture half of all venture value created every year for the 3-year period in your fund just to generate that.